However, there's a big problem with, there's several issues, which I'm just going to go through very quickly, which I just think people should be aware of. So when we're trying to add this layer of encryption to the top of the web, it was done in a sort of botched manner. It was done in this botched manner because essentially you identify yourself and you send this little message to the person on the other end with the HTTPS. So the HTTPS Google, HTTPS Twitter, HTTPS Indie Media. And that S is supposed to guarantee you security. But how do you prove, if you're Google, that you're Google? Well, the decision was made to give the Google something called a certificate. And this certificate would prove that they're themselves. And there's these bodies called certificate authorities, which were basically meant to distribute these certificates to the people, to the companies. They charge you some money. But because it became a little bit like the financial markets, that essentially the certificate authorities realized that they were sitting on an infinite amount of possible certificates. And not only that, but they could sub-delegate them to other bodies to issue certificates for them, just as banks would sub-delegate their loans to other bodies. And you could sort of trade in these things. And you could invent as many as you wanted, as much demand as there would be. So what happens, what originally was a very small business model controlled by one or two large companies like Verizon, became a huge business model with over 500 certificate authorities who were then kind of giving their power to grant certificates to anyone in the world. So, you know, at some point I think some public schools in England got certificate granting authority. There's about 600 now. If you want to observe how many certificate granting authorities there are, if you go to the Electronic Freedom Frontiers Foundation Certificate Observatory, they're actually looking at the internet trying to figure out how these certificate authorities work. Sort of like many people here probably trying to figure out, looking at the financial transactions, how all the banks work. And the issue with the certificate authorities is it doesn't sound, well, that's, you know, they're just a big scam. What's the big deal there? It's a huge deal, because remember what I said, is the only thing you can trust when you're sending information securely across the internet is if there's, on top of the web layers, if there's an S there. But now you can't even trust that, because if you're a certificate authority, you can mint a certificate for anyone. That includes, you can pretend to be Google, you can pretend to be Facebook, you can pretend to be you, right? So and this is very scary, because what happens is that many certificate authorities also have very bad security themselves. Such that, for example, last year, Komodo got hacked by what appears to be an 18-year-old Iranian kid who could then give, you know, so Iran could essentially, if they wanted to, mint Gmail certificates to Iranian computer users in Iran. So all traffic that was supposed to go to Google in Iran, even if it went in an encrypted fashion, could then be intercepted by the Iranian government. And not only that, there's commercial companies, GeoRoot comes to mind, who can sell for only 10,000 quid the ability for you to become a certificate authority. And so therefore we're almost positive that most governments have the ability to compromise the certificate authority system, which is very dangerous. So this is one large problem with the web. There's another problem with the web. Well, the web is this magical decentralized system, this sort of URI, www.google.com, it's what's called Google, and that, or google.com, is what's called the domain name. Okay, and the thing is, while the internet itself is decentralized, as in the way that sends packets around is decentralized, and the standards are decentralized, such that I can make a web page, and you can make a web page, I can link to your web page, I don't have to ask you, you know, that's great. But what's not decentralized is the domain name system. So that's why if you ever set up a web page, if you have to buy a domain name. You have to go to, and the domain name system was originally ran by the Department of Defense in the United States. However, they sort of lent it because they have to remember the U.S. military was not paying carefully close attention to the internet's formative stages. So they lent it